ready for this? 'Cause I know
Voices of Victory Podcast Show. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory Podcast Show.
It's now time for the Voices of Victory Podcast Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mario Delia.
And welcome to Voices of Victory podcast with Mario. And today's episode is going to be self-reflection for negative thinking. I actually put this out there for a whole host of people that actually subscribe to the podcast. So I just want to say welcome aboard if you've never been here before. This is a channel where we explore the very truths that actually empower us and the hard parts of who we are that actually challenge us, and the victories that help define us. And I'm Mario, and we're going to take a courageous step into the depths of our mind. And this isn't going to be about fixing ourselves or denying the hard parts of who we are, the difficult parts of who we are, the dark parts of who we are. No, today, this is about understanding, and this is about reflecting. So this is all about self-reflection for negative thinking. Now, you have the reflection podcast that I put out recently that has a great set of tools. Reflection is really important, self-reflection. This type of self-reflection is not the reflection that's in the moment. This is one where you actually have to sit down with yourself and really ask yourself every one of these questions. So it's going to be very important. And we can just simply call it exactly what it is, which is nothing more than just an honest, compassionate self-reflection. Really straightforward. That's what we're going to do. The negative thoughts are not always the enemies. We often kind of throw them out there, but they're actually signposts. They're like little clues to something deeper. They're whispers of unprocessed experienced things, and of course, unprocessed feelings. Maybe even the echoes of our fears, the doubts that we've carried for a really long time. So we're not going to run from them anymore. We're going to lean into it. We're going to explore and reclaim this very power that they actually have over us. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to bring up a series of questions. Your best bet with this is to maybe pause the podcast and repeat the question over and over again, like repeat it to yourself. It is going to be in your best interest to do this while you're not driving and not operating any machinery. Okay, so avoid any machinery operation and avoid driving while you're doing this. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the questions, a series of questions. The questions are simple, yet they're very profound, but they're actually going to help you. After each one, I'm going to repeat the question. So I encourage you to kind of like pause and write it down on paper and pen. Avoid using technology. And we're going to do it right on paper and a pen. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. So I want you to pause it. I want you also to take a deep breath on each one, like a full lung capacity breath. And pause the podcast and give yourself the time and space to reflect on each one, because it's going to be very valuable. Now, whether you choose to write your answers down or reflect on them silently in your mind, this is your journey. I can tell you by writing it down, you're able to revisit it later. And there's a value in that later on. For now, you can kind of absorb the question, kind of let it hit your heart, and see how you feel about it. These questions are not for thought. The whole point of this whole exercise, it's not for thought. So if you're an overthinker, it's like, oh, let me think about that. No. Don't get it twisted. This is about feeling. Feeling. Ask yourself how you feel about it. And reflect on that feeling and write down the thoughts that come up. Got it? Get it? Got it? Good. We're not going to sit there and intellectualize it. We're not going to sit there and compartmentalize it. We're not going to throw it into some kind of psychological pre-configured box of any knowledge that you've gotten from anywhere else. We are being raw, straightforward, following the instructions. Ask yourself how you feel about them. So let's go over to question number 1 for self-reflection. What is the most common negative thought you have about yourself? And where do you believe it actually comes from? I'll ask that again. What is the most common negative thought you have about yourself? And where do you believe it actually comes from? Be raw with yourself. Number 2, when you think about this negative thought, how does it make you feel physically? Do you notice any tension, any heaviness? Is it a particular part of your body? Is there any sensations in your body? Again, when you think about this negative thought, how does it make you feel physically? Do you notice any tension, any heaviness, any other sensations in any other parts of the body? The next one. If you can give that negative thought a voice, what would it say to you? What tone would it use? Let me say that again. If you can give that negative thought a voice, what would it say to you? What tone would it actually use? Pay attention to the tonality. Angry, happy, sad, what kind of tone? Try to slap an emotion on the tone. Now imagine the next one. Imagine you're sitting across from this thought as if it were a person. What do you want to say to it? How would you respond? Now imagine you're sitting across from this very thought. It's almost like a person that is also carrying that same thought as if it were a person. What do you want to say to it? How would you respond? The next one. Think back to a time when this thought wasn't present. What were you doing? How did you feel in that moment? Think back to a time when this thought wasn't present. What were you doing and how did you feel? If you had a choice, how would you rewrite this thought into one that empowers you instead of holding you back? One more time. If you had a choice, how would you rewrite this thought into one that empowers you instead of holding you back? Next one. Who in your life has made you feel the most supported when negative thoughts have taken over? And what can you learn from their support? Who in your life has made you feel the most supported when negative thoughts have taken over? And what can you learn from this person's support? Let's go on to the next one. What would you say to someone else who's struggling with a similar negative thought? How would you guide them? I'll ask that again. What would you say to someone else who's struggling with a similar negative thought? How would you guide them? If you could envision yourself free of this negative thought, what does that version of you look like? And what is the first step to becoming them? One more time. If you can envision yourself free of this negative thought, what does that version of you look like? And what is the first step to becoming that person? Or becoming in that state of being? So here you understand with all these questions that reflection is never about fixing yourself. It's a reflection. You're supposed to reflect. It's not about banishing the negativity. It's not about pretending it doesn't exist. It's about taking a very thorough look at what is going on. It's about understanding, listening, understanding yourself, making a choice to respond with compassion rather than judgment, having that ability to take control rather than actually giving it away. So negative thinking is a part of human experience. It happens from time to time, and some of us can be really conditioned for it, very conditioned for it. It's something we're working on, but it doesn't define who we are. So when you ask yourself these questions, by taking the time and sit there with the answers, you begin to reclaim your power. You tap into something much deeper. You're stepping into a new kind of victory. It's going to be the quiet one, the profound kind of thoughts that all start from within. So thank you for joining me today on Voices of Victory. If these questions resonated with you, I encourage you to revisit them whenever you need to, because you're stronger and wiser and more capable than you may realize. And the ability to reflect allows you to really dissect what's going on. Until next time, I'm Mario. And remember, the voice of victory always begins with your courage to actually listen. Stay victorious and have a great day.